Is Brawl Stars worth playing in 2026? We've seen boxes, masteries, hypercharges, 3 different trophy systems, prestige, buffies, ranks, star drops, an obscene amount of new brawlers, and literally hundreds of changes to the game progression. And after all of these changes, people still play this game. However, before I answer the question, I do have a lot of critiques about this game. One of the biggest changes I disagree with is the removal of masteries. And this isn't just because I liked having mastery titles. Masteries were an important source of progression. Every brawler had their own progression track, and simply playing different brawlers could give you coins, power points, credits, star drops, and other rewards. So even if you weren't trying to grind every single brawler all the way to gold 3, you were still being rewarded for playing the characters you owned. And someone on Reddit did the math on this. Credit to Banana Stan on the Brawl Stars subreddit for making this analysis. I'll put his graph on the screen. According to his calculations, across the old mastery system, there were around 230,500 coins, 34,500 power points, and 24,225 credits. He then compared that with the resources available through the replacement systems, including Trophy Road and Records. And to be fair to Supercell, according to his calculation, the replacement system actually comes out slightly ahead in total coins and credits, but look at the power points. The new system gives around 13,566 to compare with 34,500 from Masteries. That's more than 20,000 fewer power points. That's insane. You used to be able to instantly get 3,000 coins per brawler for the Masteries, even though Trophy Road plus Records combined gives you slightly more coins and credits. That's accounting for getting to 100k trophies, and most players won't ever reach 100k. Also, Masteries used to be functioned as a credit bank. Unclaimed credits can instantly be going to the new brawler that's being released. Removing this basically forces all credits to go to Fame, which I'll talk about in a bit. And this is why I don't think Masteries should just be remembered as some system where you get a title. The Masteries were a legitimate source of account progression, and I like what they encourage you to do. They rewarded you for actually playing different brawlers. Maybe there's a brawler you normally wouldn't touch, but you notice you're getting close to another mastery reward, so you play them. You get some resources, and maybe you actually start enjoying that brawler. That's a good progression loop. You're giving people a reason to play the game, and that's why I think removing Masteries was a mistake. And while we're talking about progression, we have to talk about Fame. I understand why Fame exists. Once you've unlocked every brawler, your credits need somewhere to go. Otherwise, longtime players could just have an insane amount of credits and instantly unlock every future brawler. So I understand having a credit sink. My problem isn't that Fame exists. My problem is Fame doesn't do jack shit. You spend thousands and thousands of credits increasing your Fame, and what do you actually get from that? Basically just cosmetics. You get another Fame level and something you can show on your profile. I mean, that's cool, but where's the actual reward? If you're going to take all my excess credits and put them into some permanent in-game progression system, at least make progressing through that system exciting. Give us exclusive cosmetics, unique skins, pins, titles, profile customization, star drops, something. It doesn't even have to give you a competitive advantage. I don't think somebody with a higher Fame level should automatically have a stronger account, but at least give me something that's worth grinding for. And now we get to Buffies. I actually don't hate the concept. In theory, I think it's pretty cool. You can take an older brawler who's been mediocre for months or years and suddenly make them relevant again. That keeps the meta fresh. I don't want to see the exact 10 brawlers dominating the game for an entire year. My problem is how Supercell has handled the balancing. They'll release Buffies that make certain brawlers insanely powerful. And then when the brawler becomes too strong, instead of just nerfing the Buffy that's causing the problem, they nerf the brawler space kit. That's what I don't understand. If the new mechanic is what pushed the brawler over the edge, why are we weakening the underlying brawler? Nerf the thing that made them broken. Otherwise, you risk making that brawler increasingly dependent on their Buffy just to remain competitive. And once more brawlers eventually receive Buffies, that original brawler could be left with a weaker base kit because they were balanced around an additional mechanic in the first place. We already saw a similar problem with Hypercharges. Brawlers without Hypercharges become increasingly disadvantaged against brawlers that had them. So I don't hate Buffies, I hate the way they've been balanced, and that connects to an even bigger problem. Tell me if you've seen this before. Supercell announces a new brawler. Everyone sees the abilities, the brawler comes out and they're insanely strong. They're available through early access. People spend money to get them. The brawler destroys everyone for a while, and then towards the end of the season, the nerf comes. Obviously, I'm not saying every single brawler has followed the same exact cycle, but in my opinion, this trend started becoming noticeable around the release of Eve. And back then, I felt like it was at least more subtle. A brawler would come out overpowered, they dominate the meta, then eventually they get nerfed. Nowadays, sometimes it feels like they just don't even try to hide it anymore. When a brand new brawler is ridiculously strong and people can spend money to access that brawler early, it creates a really bad incentive. Now, I obviously can't tell you what Supercell is thinking internally. I can't prove that they're intentionally saying, let's make this brawler broken so people buy early access, but I can tell you what it feels like from a player's perspective. A new brawler get released. People pay early access for it. That brawler cooks everybody else, and then they just get nerfed and repeat. And when that comes enough times, players start expecting it. Whether it's an intentional monetization strategy or Supercell repeatedly struggling to balance new releases, the end result for players feel pretty similar. And that's something I really don't like. I'm completely fine with Supercell making money. Brawl Stars is free, obviously they need monetization, but I want to spend money on something that's cool, not because I feel like I'm putting myself at a competitive disadvantage if I don't. Because right now, when my credits go into fame, I'm not thinking of, let's go, I'm getting closer to the next fame level. I'm thinking, well, there go my credits. And when you compare that with Masteries, the difference becomes even more obvious. Masteries rewarded you for playing. Fame basically takes the progression resource you've earned and converts it into a cosmetic number. Again, I understand why Supercell needs somewhere for excess credits to go, but if Fame is supposed to be an in-game progression system, make the in-game progression actually rewarding. And then there's leaderboard prestige. And I have mixed feelings about this one. First of all, I actually like trophies no longer resetting. I don't think constantly taking trophies away from people who spent hours earning them was necessarily a great system. Permanent trophies make your progression feels more meaningful, so I'm completely fine with that part. What I'm not fine with is how Supercell handled leadership prestige afterward, because people spent a lot of time grinding those prestige levels, including myself. If you saw somebody with a prestige badge on their profile, you immediately knew that player actually was on the global leaderboard. It was obvious. You had something visual representing what you accomplished, and then the system basically disappeared. Now yes, technically Supercell still includes your previous prestige on your profile, so the accomplishment hasn't been completely erased. It's not the same before. You had that prestige badge and people immediately knew what you achieved, and now that's basically just a record sitting on your profile. And I don't like the idea of introducing a system encouraging your most dedicated players to spend hundreds of hours grinding it and then making the main symbol of that accomplishment obsolete. Why not turn the old prestige badges into legacy badges? Give players permanent cosmetics based on what they reached. Put something more obvious on their profiles. There were so many ways they could have preserved the achievement, so overall, I like the trophy not resetting. I just don't like how Supercell handle the people who already grind the prestige. Because when you're one of those people, you can't help but think, what was the point of me grinding this in the first place? Then we have probably one of my biggest frustrations with playing the game, matchmaking. I understand matchmaking will never be perfect. You can't expect every game to have 6 people with identical accounts, identical trophies, identical skill levels, and identical power levels. That's impossible, but sometimes the differences are ridiculous. If I'm playing a low power level brawler, I think the game should make a reasonable effort to match me against other lower power level brawlers. If my brawler has relatively low trophies, I should generally be facing people around the same trophy range, because power level matters, trophies matter, and matchmaking should account for both as much as reasonably possible. Otherwise, you can end up with games where one side is at an obvious disadvantage before anyone even starts playing. And this gets even worse at high trophies. I understand the point of the Underdog system. Sometimes matchmaking gives you teammates who are significantly below the level of the lobby. You then choose them. The matchmaking system did. So Underdog gives you some protection because the game puts you at a disadvantage. And it makes sense. What I don't understand is why that protection disappears above 2,000 trophies. Imagine you're trying to solo queue from 2,000 all the way to 3,000. You don't have a team and you're playing by yourself. You could get matched against opponents around your trophy level and then receive teammates with significantly fewer trophies or poorly leveled brawlers. You didn't choose those teammates, the matchmaking system did. And because you're above 2,000 trophies, this is one of the places where I think Underdog matters the most. At those trophy levels, one severely mismatched teammate can completely change the game. And I'm not saying 3,000 trophies should be easy, it should be insanely difficult. If I'm pushing 3,000 trophies, give me extremely good opponents, make me earn it. But there's a difference between this is difficult because my opponents are really good, and this is difficult because matchmaking randomly put me at a disadvantage. If I'm pushing 3,000 trophies, I want to fight the enemy team, I don't want to fight the matchmaking system too. Bad matchmaking becomes even worse when you combine it with another problem, reporting. We've all had bad randoms, so you report them and then what? From a player's perspective, it feels like nothing happens. And I'm not talking about somebody simply having a bad game. That's completely different. Everybody has terrible games. I've had terrible games. I'm talking about someone who is obviously intentionally sabotaging the match. The game needs to distinguish between playing badly and purposely griefing. And if somebody repeatedly does the second one, there should be consequences, maybe temporary matchmaking restrictions, maybe ranked restrictions, maybe escalating penalties for repeated verified reports. Whatever the exact solution is, there needs to be some reason not to intentionally ruin matches, because right now if someone decides, screw this, I'm throwing, what stops them? And when you're pushing high trophies, that's especially frustrating. You can spend hours making progress and then lose some of it because one random teammate decided he didn't care anymore. That's not competitive difficulty. That's just frustrating. And then there's another problem that's become pretty noticeable. Bugs. There have been enough bugs over the years where sometimes you're feeling frustrated about it. Obviously, every live service game is going to have bugs, and Brawl Stars get updated constantly. So I'm not expecting perfection, but considering how successful and established the game is right now, I think it's fair to expect a certain level of polish, especially when bugs affect competitive gameplay or major progression systems. And Brawl Stars have way too many bugs to be considered a well-polished game. So after talking about earliest access brawlers, Buffies, and progression, we have to ask, is Brawl Stars pay to win? Personally, I wouldn't go that far. You can absolutely play Brawl Stars without spending money. You can become extremely good without spending money, and spending hundreds of dollars isn't suddenly going to give you pro level mechanics. If you can't dodge, can't aim, have terrible positioning, and don't understand matchups, your credit card isn't going to fix that. But money absolutely affects progression, and when new brawlers or mechanics release extremely strong, paying players can sometimes access that power earlier. So I think there's an important difference between pay to win and pay to win faster, and I think Brawl Stars has increasingly flirted with that second category. That doesn't make the entire game bad, but it's something Supercell needs to be very careful with. After everything I just complained about, you're probably wondering how the hell I'm still going to say that this game is worth playing. Because Brawl Stars is still fun. That's really what it comes down to. There's a reason people can complain about Brawl Stars for an hour and then open Brawl Stars again. Getting a crazy team wipe feels good, winning a 1v3 feels good, scoring with 1 second left feels good, winning a game you had absolutely no business winning feels really good. There's always that, okay, one more game, and then somehow you've played 10 more. That's the part Supercell has gotten right. The actual gameplay loop is incredibly addictive. And this is something I personally started appreciating more. Brawl Stars is actually a pretty social game when you get involved with the community. You can play casually with friends, push trophies together, join clubs, find teammates, play competitively, watch creators, join streams, and that's something I've experienced myself. I've been streaming and making Brawl Stars videos, and I've had people ask if they can play with me, which is actually one of the reasons why I ended up creating a Discord server for the channel. I think games become way more enjoyable when you have people to play with, especially because then you don't have to rely on randoms. The thing is, I don't think Brawl Stars needs a massive reboot. The foundation is already really good. Supercell just needs to be more careful with the system surrounding it. If you're going to introduce a long-term progression system that players spend hundreds of hours grinding, please don't casually remove it. User experience is very important, and I think Supercell has been almost arrogantly dismissing it. And that brings us back to the original question, is Brawl Stars still worth playing in 2026? For me, yes. I absolutely think it is, especially if you've never played before. It's free. Matches are quick. There's an insane amount of content. There are tons of different brawlers, and the skill ceiling is surprisingly high. You can play casually or competitively, and you absolutely do not need to spend money just to have fun. But I'm also not going to sit here and pretend Brawl Stars is perfect. There are legitimate problems. But here's the important part. I'm criticizing these things because I still like Brawl Stars. If this game was genuinely terrible, I wouldn't care. I'd uninstall it and play something else. Instead, I think Brawl Stars is a genuinely great game with some really questionable systems built around it. And honestly, that's what makes these problems so frustrating. The core game is good enough that I want everything surrounding it to be better. So if somebody came up to me today and asked, should I download Brawl Stars? I'd say, yeah, absolutely try it. Just don't expect everything to be perfect. And if you already play Brawl Stars, I want to know what you think. Is Brawl Stars better now than it used to be, or has it gotten worse? And if you could undo one decision Supercell has made, what would it be? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.